first big con was that this thing took forever to set up, and it has partially to do with if some of you have read any blogs or forums on this, they're having internet connectivity issues, so the internet will kind of like pick up and it'll drop, and it kind of like goes back and forth, and that was really annoying. I was in a room in my house, which is not the main room that I have my router, but normally I don't have any problems getting the internet in that room, and for some reason, like, this thing, it wouldn't connect, and then it would connect, and it would keep dropping and dropping on, dropping off. So it took forever to set it up, and that was really frustrating. It literally took like 2 hours to really get the whole thing set up. So that was a big annoyance, and it really had to do with the internet device in the tablet. And I believe they're supposed to release some updates that are going to fix that, but as long as I've had it, there hasn't been any fix yet. So, by the way, today's date is July 7th, so July 7th, 2014, so you might be watching this in December and they may have fixed that issue, but as of right now, it's not fixed, and it's very annoying because the tablet will just disconnect, and you'll have to come down the corner here and click on the internet, and you have to troubleshoot it. And I read some forums that say you have to even just turn it off and turn it back on, and all of a sudden it connects properly. So that's very annoying. I normally don't turn my computers off because you always have something like that you're working on. So to have to keep turning it off and turning it back on is a big inconvenience. So definitely that was a con. The next con was that this was a lot heavier than I had expected. In the pitch, when they're announcing this tablet, they're telling you this is like your replacement for your laptop, and they show a picture of like a MacBook and an iPad and how you don't have to carry those, you can just carry this. Now, I'll say this, in terms of replacing your MacBook, this is lighter than a MacBook, but it's nowhere near as light as an iPad or a Galaxy Tab. Frankly, I found it rather uncomfortable just to hold it. If I was just sitting down and trying to hold it and use it, it's rather heavy, and it was not comfortable. So obviously you could put it on your lap, but I'm the type where I may just want to hold it and may want to have it tilted up like this, and if I try to do that, it does get a little annoying. So unfortunately, I expected it to be a little bit lighter. I didn't necessarily look at how light or heavy it was supposed to be, but when I took it out, I was like, wow, this has quite a bit of weight on it. So, you know, that definitely sucks, because like when I hold the iPad and I'm using that, like it's so light you don't even think about it. You literally just hold it and you just use it. But this, when you hold it, you're thinking about it because it's not you know, it's noticeable. So maybe that's a better word for it. So the next thing, I was a little annoyed by the bottom keyboard because it takes up, you know, almost half the screen. Now there is a feature where you can like undock it like this and you can move it around, but it still takes up half the screen. I believe they should get rid of the middle, and you should just have the sides if you just wanted to type and not have the numbers. I don't know, but I hate that every time I type it takes up half the screen. Something new that's on the Note 3s and a lot of the newer Samsung phones there's a floating keyboard. Now this does have a floating feature, but the keyboard is still huge. So even if you float it around, it still takes up a ton of space. So I'd like to see Microsoft make it so you could shrink this keyboard totally down and have a smaller keyboard you could type on, because if not, I hate to lose half the screen just because I need to type something. So that was kind of annoying. Obviously you can tell I use it more in landscape. I rarely ever use it in portrait, which is a long way. Maybe in that direction it's easier, but to me that also wasn't comfortable because of the weight. So excuse me. The next con, and this really bugged me, is that the Surface Pro 3 does not come with Office at all. If you buy the RT models, which is not Surface 3, it's like the older Surface models, those come with Office, and those are only like $400 and $500. Why am I paying $1,000 and you can't even include Office, which is your program? To me, that was unacceptable. When you get a MacBook, you can download Pages, Numbers, and Keynote, which is their version of Office, for free. So if this is going to be a comparison to a MacBook, how come I don't get those things? If you're going to compare it to an iPad, guess what? On an iPad, Pages, Numbers, and Keynote now comes for free. So to me, it was unacceptable. They should package that with it. You're literally, even if you buy the lower model that's $799, imagine paying $799 and then having to come out of pocket and pay another $150 to get Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. To me, why would you do that when you're already making the tablet so much more expensive than it should be? So very disappointed with that, as well as it does not come with the keyboard. Once again, this is compared to the MacBook Pro. The MacBook Pro is a keyboard. You don't have to buy it separate. To buy the keyboard for this, you're looking at least $129. So if you buy the lower model, you're talking about $799 plus $129 for the keyboard, okay? That definitely rakes you up. Now you're in the $900 range, and then you buy Office. Guess what? You've now tipped over $1,000. So to me, why wouldn't you include those things? At least include the Office suite and let people decide if they want to use the keyboard. But to not include both of those, to me, that was kind of shady, and I hate to use that terminology, but I felt like they need to include more. You know, so anyway, I'm not going to harp on that. Let's keep moving. Another big, I guess, one thing they said this was supposed to do really well was to run Photoshop. And as you can see, I have Photoshop installed right here at the bottom, and it was glitchy. For example, I had a file, and this, I'm going to get technical really fast, and I'm going to go back to common terms, but I was trying to open an older file that I had edited before, and I didn't have those fonts installed on this tablet, and because of that, I think this is the reason the Photoshop wouldn't let me open the file at all. I went to my PC, I tried to open the same file, and it opens up and it gives you the option. So to me, I was like, wow, this was supposed to run Photoshop really well, and now multiple files I had, it could not open for me to even try to edit. So that was also frustrating, because that was a big selling point, was that this is now supposed to be able to run Photoshop. And once again, this is the i5 model, not the i3, so the i5 is obviously supposed to run it better. This did not. Now I did create a couple of files from scratch and use it. Photoshop did work well with those, but the point I'm making is that Photoshop was glitchy, and I expected it to run a little bit smoother on the tablet. So next thing, I'm not happy with the price. This is still really expensive. We're talking about $1,000 here, and I get it has the latest Intel processor. I still feel like it's so expensive for it not to include the Office and the keyboard. I feel like they should have packaged one of those two together, and then the value would stand up a little bit higher. But right now, I feel like it's still really overpriced, and I'm not sure if people are ready to drop $800 to $1,000 on a heavy tablet. I don't know. Again, don't want to harp on that too much, but I do feel that it is still rather expensive, and the price does need to come down. One other thing is, so the pen is interesting because the pen mimics a mouse. And so one of the things I found myself trying to do that I couldn't do is trying to take the pen and trying to scroll up and down the screen, which you cannot do. There's a way I guess you're supposed to do it. So like you'd have to actually scroll with your finger, and then the pen is for clicking. I wish there was a button or a function where you could just swipe with the pen like you would with your finger. So to me, that was kind of weird. You do have to use your finger sometime. Even, for example, sometime when you tap somewhere where you can write. Right now I'm tapping here, but the keyboard doesn't come up. The only way for the keyboard to come up is I have to tap it with my finger, and then it shows up. So that was also kind of weird. Why wouldn't the keyboard prompt if you use the pen to tap in an area where you need to type? To me, that didn't make sense. That functionality should already be there. It might be in the settings, but you know, a lot of people aren't going to know to be able to change something like that. Finally, our last con is that the screen, I felt, wasn't as clear as I guess they made it out to be, and maybe it's because I'm using more of the desktop side. So if you go on, this is like the start screen. I do everything in the desktop. There are custom apps that are made for this tablet. I don't use those. So maybe if you use the special internet browser here, it might look clearer, but I was trying to use this as if it was a PC, and for example, I have a PC that has Windows 8 on it. I still don't use any of the special apps. I just use it for basic PC functions, and all that is done through the desktop, which is right here. So I felt like in here the screen, it wasn't as sharp as I don't know, I guess the advertisements, or when they announced it, they, you know, this really awesome resolution, but to me it still wasn't as clear as I felt like they made it out to be.